Hi you guys, my name is Lindsay with Solo Yoga here in Hudson, Wisconsin. We're going to be moving through a 30-minute all-level flow class, so maybe we could just take about 30 minutes out of our afternoon, come together, do some different poses. If you've never done yoga before, no worries, just find a comfortable spot in your living room, maybe even in your kitchen. You can use a blanket, your mat, whatever works for you. As we get ready to start this practice here, I invite you to come to a nice seated position at the front of your mat, resting your hands on your lap, drawing length in our spine, drawing that crown of the head up, radiating our chest forward. On an inhale, we're going to rise those arms overhead. As we exhale, we're going to bring the left arm forward, the right arm behind. As we keep the length in our spine on an inhale, as we exhale, try to twist a little bit more over to the right. And as we inhale, returning back to center, arms overhead. From here, as we exhale, doing the opposite arm. So the right arm forward, the left arm behind. And once again, on an inhale, lengthening. On an exhale, twisting just a little bit more to the left. As we return back to center on an inhale, collecting those hands together as we exhale, drawing our hands down to heart center. Now this time, sweeping the arms overhead on an inhale, grabbing onto the left wrist as we exhale, leaning over to the right. Working towards keeping those hips centered. Great job. As we inhale, return back, grabbing the opposite wrist. This time as we exhale, coming over to the left. And as we inhale, returning back to center, collecting the palms. As we exhale, drawing our hands down to heart center. From here, placing the hands onto the mat. Next, coming onto all fours in tabletop pose. So the backs of the feet are touching. Our joints are stacked, so our shoulders over our wrists and our hips over our knees. From here, next, moving through some cat and cow. Beginning with cow, as we inhale, dropping the belly, bringing the gaze forward, radiating that heart forward. And as we exhale, tucking that tailbone, tucking the chin as we form cat pose. Once again, as we inhale, coming into cow. And exhale, rounding it out as we tuck that belly button up into the spine for cat. From here, returning to tabletop pose. From here, doing an open twist to thread the needle as we reach up on an inhale with the right hand. As we exhale, threading that needle through the left, resting the right shoulder, the right cheek. From here, energetically pressing that left palm into the mat to activate that arm. Remembering to breathe. And from here, sliding that left hand back as we inhale, reaching high once more. And as we exhale, returning back to tabletop. From here, once again, flowing through just one cat and cow with an inhale and an exhale. Before returning back to tabletop pose. From here, doing the opposite side, so inhaling that left arm high as we reach up to the sky. Exhale, threading that needle through the right this time, resting the left cheek, the left shoulder as the right hand energetically presses on that mat forward. And from here, sliding that right hand back as we inhale, reaching high once more. Before exhale, returning to tabletop pose. So from here, next coming into jackrabbit, we're going to curl our toes to connect to the mat. Our hands are widespread, we're pressing through the knuckles, our back is flat here. As we inhale, begin to hover the knees about 1 to 2 inches off the ground. Remembering to stabilize ourselves by activating our core, activating our legs. And from here, as we exhale, sending those hips back for our first downward facing dog. In downward facing dog, our chest is open, our spine is long. Gaze is at the toes here. The fingers are wide spread as well. From here, inhaling forward to a plank pose. So now the shoulders are over the wrist here, adjusting as needed. Remembering to breathe here, always keeping in mind equal breath. So equal breath in to equal breath out. And as we exhale, returning down to downward facing dog. From here, as we inhale next, gazing towards the top of the mat. Exhale to step, meeting those hands at the front for a forward fold. From here, inhaling to lift halfway. So drawing those elbows close together, resting the hands on the shins or the thighs. The spine is long, the gaze is down. Keeping a bend in the knees is always welcome. And from here, melting back down in that forward fold. From here, crossing opposite arm to opposite elbow for ragdoll pose. So from here, maybe swinging from side to side, remembering to release the tension from the neck and release that chest so that way it glides across those thighs as you sway from left to right. And from here, taking opposite arm to opposite elbow, and just swaying a few more times before finding stillness. And from here, as we find that stillness, releasing those hands down to the mat. As we inhale, slow rise in mountain. As our arms sweep overhead, connecting those palms. As we exhale, drawing our hands down to heart center. Now next, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to flow through some sun salutations. So those are some varied poses that we do in a certain order. We're going to move through some sun sal A's next. So stepping towards the front of the mat if we're using our mat. From here, drawing those feet close together, bringing the hands down to the sides. As we inhale, sweeping those arms overhead. As we exhale, hinging through the hips, coming down to our forward fold. On an inhale, lifting halfway. And as we exhale, melting back down, connecting those hands to the mat as we step it back for a plank pose. We're going to stay in this pose for 2 breaths. Before that second exhale, we'll meet together back in downward facing dog. From our downward facing dog, on our next inhale, gazing towards the top of the mat. Exhale, having the feet meet the hands at the front for our forward fold. As we inhale to lift halfway. Exhale, melting back down, generous bend in those knees, guys. As we inhale, slow rise in mountain. Sweeping our arms overhead, connecting those palms. As we exhale, drawing our hands down to heart center. Flowing through this again as we inhale those arms high. Exhale, sweeping it through, leading with the heart for a forward fold. As we inhale to lift halfway. Exhale, melting down, connecting those hands, stepping it back. Once again, we'll find each other in plank pose. Now staying here, flowing through your vinyasa. This time we'll release the knees down, release the backs of the feet. As we chaturanga, hugging those elbows close, lowering to hover. From here, next, inhale, finding upward facing dog, leaving those backs of the feet down, coming off of the thighs, off of the knees. And as we exhale, hinging through those hips, sending them back, finding downward facing dog. From here, as we inhale, gazing towards the top of the mat. Exhale to step, hop, or jump, finding that forward fold. On an inhale to lift halfway. Exhale, melting back down, keeping that generous bend in the knees as we inhale, slow rise in mountain. Sweeping the arms overhead, connecting the palms. As we exhale, bringing them down to heart center. Once more, we'll flow through this sun salutation series as we inhale the arms overhead. Exhale, sending that heart down for a forward fold. And then inhale to lift halfway. Exhale, down, forward fold, connecting those palms, stepping it back. Now your choice, 2 breaths in our plank pose or releasing the knees down, finding your vinyasa style. So chaturanga to upward facing dog. And we'll meet together back in downward dog. On our next inhale, gazing towards the top of the mat. Exhale to step up to the front in a forward fold. As we inhale to lift halfway. Exhale, melting back down, forward fold. Generous bend in the knees as we inhale, slow rise in mountain. Connecting our palms. As we exhale, drawing our hands down to heart center. From here, inhaling those arms high. From here, sitting into chair pose next. So So as we find that chair pose, we want to keep the length in our spine here, keeping the tailbone in line. So making sure not to tilt it out, but keeping it tucked in. Maybe bringing our arms overhead or releasing those hands down to heart center. Remembering to breathe. And from this chair pose, on our next exhale, releasing it down to a fold, connecting those hands, stepping the feet back, finding downward dog again. From that downward facing dog, next inhaling the right leg to three-legged dog. As we exhale, drawing the knee towards the nose, planting that foot down, releasing the knee down to the mat, uncurling the toes as we find low lunge. From here, pressing onto that right front knee to help lift us up. And from this low lunge, mindfully uncurling to connect that toe back. As we inhale, sweeping those arms overhead. From here, lifting off of that knee, finding high lunge or high crescent. So that back leg is extended, the back heel is lifted here. And from this high lunge, on our next exhale, opening the hips up to the left, finding warrior two pose here. So as we find that warrior two pose, we want to make sure that the knee is as best over the ankle as we can. The back toes are pointing towards the left leg is extended, the hips are open. We're energetically reaching towards each end of the room and the gaze is over the front fingertips here. And from here, next, coming to extended side angle as we first inhale to reach towards the front. As we exhale, releasing that elbow down to the knee, maybe the hand down to the inside of the ankle as the left hand extends overhead here. Gaze may be over the left fingertips. And from here, keeping the strength in those warrior legs, as we inhale, return to your warrior two. From here, turning that front palm up. This time, exhale, finding reverse warrior. So finding that left arm behind, working towards opening our chest as the gaze is up towards the ceiling. And from this reverse warrior, on our next exhale, windmilling those hands to meet the front foot, turning that left foot out as the right foot meets the left for down dog. Now from downward facing dog, you can always stay here or flow through a vinyasa. Now we went over that earlier in our sun sal A, but what we're going to do is inhale forward to a plank pose. From here, let's release the knees down, release the backs of the feet. As we exhale, chaturanga, hovering that chest off the floor. From here, as we inhale, finding cobra or upward facing dog. The difference between the two is in cobra, the backs of the feet, more so the thighs. The thighs are rested on the ground here. And in upward facing dog, they're lifted off. As we exhale, sending those hips back, finding our downward facing dog once again. This time we're going to flow through the opposite series. So as we find that downward facing dog, this time inhaling that left leg high to three-legged dog. Exhale, bringing the knee towards the nose, planting that right knee down, the back of the foot, bringing the hands to the left knee to press us up to a low lunge. We find that low lunge, bringing that length, drawing that crown of the head up. And from here, we're gonna reach those hands overhead. We're gonna curl that right toe to connect back to the mat. And on our next inhale, we're gonna draw ourselves up to a high crescent here. So once again, that back leg is extended, the back heel is lifted. Reaching those arms up, releasing any tension out of the shoulders. And from this high crescent, on our next exhale, opening it up to warrior two pose. So once again, the hips are open here. This time the back toes are pointed towards the right. We're reaching towards each end of the room as the gaze is over the front fingertips here. And next, coming into extended side angle, remembering to reach front on an inhale first before we exhale, bringing the right fingertips overhead. Gaze may be over the right fingertips as well. And from here on our next inhale, returning back to that strong warrior two before lifting that front palm up. This time as we exhale, finding reverse warrior, opposite side. And from here, as we exhale, windmill to meet that front foot with the hands. Turning the back foot out as the left meets the right. Maybe staying here in downward dog or flowing through your vinyasa, coming forward to your plank, releasing the knees and the feet. From here, as we exhale, chaturanga to hover. From here, inhaling to cobra or upward facing dog. And then from there, hinging those hips back, connecting the feet again as we find our downward facing dog. Now let's take a resting moment here, releasing the knees to the outer edges, connecting the heels close together as we hinge back, releasing the forehead to the mat for extended child's pose. Now to activate this pose, reaching those fingertips forward and really pressing through the knuckles there onto the mat. Feeling this moment to just connect back to yourself, connect back to your breath. And from here on our next inhale, we're turning back to tabletop pose. So adjusting those knees to hips width distance apart. From here, we're going to connect those toes to the mat. And from here, as we exhale next, let's find downward facing dog again. As we find that downward facing dog, bringing the length here through the spine. We want the gaze at the toes. Those fingers are widespread, pressing through those wrists, or rather not the wrists, but the knuckles. And from here, inhaling that right leg to three-legged dog. From here, activating the core by exhale, bringing the right knee to the left elbow here. As we inhale, once again, three-legged dog. Exhale, bringing it to the right elbow next. Inhale, three-legged dog. Exhale, drawing the knee towards the nose, planting that foot down, releasing the heel down to the mat. The back toes are pointed out 45 degrees. From here, inhale, reaching up, finding our warrior one pose next. Remembering to breathe. And bringing some movement here. As we exhale, begin to hinge forward, airplane of the arms. And as we inhale, finding warrior one once more. Once more, let's exhale, hinging forward. And inhale to rise. And from this warrior one, let's release those hands down to the mat. Stepping the left foot out, The right to meet the left in downward facing dog. Staying here, flowing through your vinyasa, inhaling forward to plank. Release of the knees and the feet as you exhale, chaturanga to hover. On an inhale, finding upward dog or cobra. And as we exhale, hinging those hips back, sending them to downward facing dog. Now we'll move through the same series on the other side. So this time, inhale that left leg high. As we exhale, drawing that knee to the right elbow to cross. Inhale, three-legged. Exhale to the opposite side, so left to left. Inhale, lengthen. This time, exhale, sending it through, planting that foot. Back toes turn out about 45 degrees as we inhale that warrior one, opposite side. And bringing some movement in here again as we exhale to hinge forward. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale to hinge forward once again. Inhale to lengthen. This time just holding this warrior one. And from here, as we exhale, framing that front foot, stepping the left to meet the right in down dog. Staying here, flowing through that vinyasa as we inhale forward to plank, release of the knees and the feet. Exhale, chaturanga to hover. On an inhale, finding upward dog or cobra. And as we exhale, sending it through those hips, finding downward dog once more. From this downward facing dog now, inhaling to the top of the mat. Exhale to have the feet meet the hands in our forward fold. On an inhale, lifting halfway to hold. So once again, resting the hands on either the shins or the thighs. We want the back to be flat here. Our gaze is at the floor. And from this halfway lift as we exhale, sending it down to a fold. Generous bend in those knees as we inhale, hinging up through the hips and mounting, sweeping those arms overhead. As we connect the palms, exhale, drawing the hands down to heart center. Now from here to next move to a balancing posture, we're going to come into eagle. So starting by bringing the hands down to the sides, rolling onto the tops of the feet and backs on the heels to help ground yourself. Once we've found that groundedness, planting those points to connect and finding a point on the floor to balance. This may be a few feet in front of us. From here, next, bringing those arms out to a T. And as we cross them under, bringing the right under the left, connecting those palms, drawing the elbows up towards the chin. Now from here, we're going to shift the weight into the left foot, crossing that right foot over the left. Now you can either kickstand by pressing on that toe, or if you can do it also, binding that foot behind the calf. Now from here, just like before, earlier in practice when we sat in a chair pose, begin to hinge down. Now as we hinge down, keeping the length in the spine, remembering not to let those elbows fall, leaving them lifted up towards the chin. And once those arms are crossed, sometimes it can be a little hard to balance, so you're going to have to trust on that rooted foot there. And just as we mindfully came into this pose, coming out, first by bringing length back into our spine, uncrossing the right leg from the left, bringing those arms back out to a T. And then just shaking it out. We'll move to the same posture on the other side next. So once again, grounding ourselves. Once we've found that point of groundedness, next bringing those arms out to a T. From here, we're going to sweep the left one under next. So this time, left under, connecting those palms, drawing those elbows up. From here, we're going to shift the weight into the right foot there, keeping that right foot grounded, crossing the left over. Maybe kickstanding the toe, binding it behind the calf, whichever works for our body. And from here, just like chair pose, begin to sit in your eagle pose. So hinging down, being mindful to keep those elbows lifted up. And just as we mindfully came into this pose, coming out first by bringing length back into our spine and crossing those feet, bringing the arms out to a T before shaking it out. And from here, getting ready to move back down to the ground, so stepping back to the front of your mat if you're not already there. From here, sweeping those arms overhead as we exhale, coming straight down to a forward fold. As we inhale to lift halfway, exhale, melting down, forward fold, connecting those hands to the mat, stepping it back. Let's just do a plank pose now. So stacking those shoulders over the wrist, keeping the length in the spine, the gaze is down on the ground. And from here, just like a chaturanga, keeping those elbows hugged tight as we exhale, releasing down to the mat. Once that chest meets the ground, resting that right cheek onto the mat. Bringing those hands to rest back behind as we find this resting pose. Next, we'll move to lotus pose. So bringing that chin back to center, the gaze is at the mat. From here, as we inhale, lifting those arms off to fly, bringing those feet to lift off as well. The knees are off, the thighs are lifted. Next, bringing that chest off as well, finding our lotus pose. Remembering to breathe. And as we exhale, melting down, this time let's just rest our left cheek onto the mat. We're going to flow through this lotus pose once more. So just remembering to take a few breaths. Being mindful of the inhale, the exhale. Coming back into the pose, first by bringing that gaze back to the mat. Lifting that chin as we inhale, lifting those arms and legs back off the ground, keeping just that belly button, those hips are connected to the mat. Maybe trying to just lift off a little more, get one more rib off. And as we exhale, resting either cheek down, as we bring those hands to touch down on the mat, close to the body. Inhale, finding that tabletop pose. From here, releasing down to either side to swing those legs in front, connecting the soles of the feet as our hands come back to our feet, opening up to butterfly pose next. So in this butterfly pose, we're keeping that length in our spine. And from here, working on opening those hips or getting a little more stretch by hinging forward, maybe keeping those hands at the feet or reaching them in front of us. From this butterfly pose, inching those hands back as we bring that length in our spine, releasing those feet, bringing the feet to cross. We'll rest our hands back onto our thighs, bringing that length in our spine once more. As we inhale, reaching our arms overhead, exhale that right arm back, left arm forward. And on our next inhale, returning back to center, arms overhead. Exhale, opposite arm forward. So right arm forward, left arm behind. On our next inhale, returning back to center. This time, let's grab onto the left wrist as we exhale, opening up onto the right. Bringing that stretch on the left side. As we inhale, return back to center, grabbing the opposite wrist, exhale to the opposite side. Inhale, returning back to center. This time, connecting those palms as we draw our hands down to heart center. Bringing the eyes to a close, taking a few more breaths. This time, inhaling through your nose. Exhale through the nose. Once again, inhale through the nose. And exhale through the nose. To seal this practice, we bow forward. Namaste. Thank you guys again for joining in on this practice, this all-level flow with me, Lindsay, here at Solo Yoga in Hudson, Wisconsin. Hope you guys are all staying healthy, happy, making the best of your time. And thanks again for joining in. Have a great rest of your day.